Did the Chicago Bulls make a mistake by re-signing Lonzo Ball instead of trading him if there was an offer on the table? All right, Goat. So obviously it's mostly a feel-good story for Lonzo Ball this season. After missing 2.5 years of NBA action with multiple knee surgeries, the last-ditch effort, the cartilage knee replacement, etc. surgery works. And we see Lonzo play 35 NBA games for the Bulls this season in the final year of his deal. Some were speculating that because he had proven to be healthy as the Bulls were making their way towards that trade deadline, that a healthy Lonzo Ball, great two-way player, high IQ on the floor, is a great piece, especially an expiring contract for playoff-bound teams. And that there were reports of various teams being interested and the Bulls perhaps turning down some trade offers. Instead, right as we neared that NBA's in-season trade deadline, they re-signed Lonzo on a 2-year, $20 million deal. There is a team option on that second year, so a bit of flexibility there. But then, not a knee injury, but a wrist injury causes Lonzo to miss the final 20-something games of the season. Again, just 35 games played of an 82-game season. And now he did express optimism. He'll be ready to go after an offseason to get that wrist back where it needs to be. But some are wondering if re-signing this injury-prone player was a mistake.
It's a big question. I mean, I remember before the trade deadline having these conversations and actually bringing up the idea of maybe the Bulls should sign Lonzo to a team-friendly extension for a couple of years here. They can get him on a smaller number. He's looking really good. He's playing well. The knee is good. He's obviously an expiring contract. And if you can get him on a team-friendly deal, maybe you might be able to get a first-round pick in exchange during the offseason. So when I found out, we saw the alert that they had done exactly that, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I called that one. Like that was a smart thing for the Bulls to try. But then later on, a couple weeks, John Hollinger reported that the Grizzlies had made an offer for the pick. I'd heard similar stuff about the Grizzlies, and they made ultimately a trade that really reflected what it would have looked like had the Bulls made that deal. Obviously, it was with the Wizards where they traded Marcus Smart and a draft pick to get him off their roster. So effectively a salary dump. And the Bulls could have gotten something similar. So you look at where the Grizzlies ended. They're probably going to have the 18th pick in the draft, I believe. And you take on 1 extra year of Marcus Smart's contract. That's not so bad. I mean, you are still aligning your cap sheet so that money comes off the books in 2026. Mm-hmm. It's an additional $20 million for next year. That's not that big of a deal. It does provide some limitations in terms of what you can then offer Giddey and how many roster spots you have. But for the most part, like that could have totally worked. And then you also get a good draft pick out of it. 18th overall pick in this draft. I think we were just talking about it. Like the top couple in this draft seem really good. And then the rest of the way, it's like, there's not a real group from like the 9 to 20 range. No one in that group really stands out to me as like being that much better than anybody else.
So why not take 2 cracks at it if you can? Exactly.
And I think that's really the key here is the Bulls roster building strategy should be to take on bad contracts for picks, to be able to have multiple bites of the apple, to be able to bring in multiple players on rookie scale contracts that can fill out your roster that have potential. And there's like a handful of players that I would be very excited about looking at in the 18 to 20 range where they might have ended up. I think ultimately it was probably a mistake not to trade him because they had the first round pick on the table. Like the idea behind the extension is maybe you can get a first round pick for him and then you turn that down to sign the extension.
Right.
So that I think not great, but like at the end of the day, he's still on a tradable contract, a team friendly deal, $9.5 million next year, a team option for 10 plus the following year. That's going to be very tradable. The question is, could they get something as good as the return that they might have just been able to get from Marcus Smart? We may not know. We may find out here this summer, but yeah, it's just a challenge, I think, for the Bulls to find ways to get additional draft capital. And it seems like a real missed opportunity that they weren't able to do that.
Yeah, and especially when you consider what the expectations were for Lonzo coming into the season. Like, we're just hoping this dude can get in an NBA court again after missing 2.5 years and not being sure if that was going to be able to happen or not. And he plays out of the gate, but they're very careful with him. They keep him on, a minutes restriction. Let's start with like 10 minutes, 15, maybe 20. But then that stretch of games leading up to right around that time of year where it was the in-season trade deadline, you saw Lonzo not only start to play more minutes, above 20 minutes a game, above 25 minutes a game, he was also starting because of some other injuries that the Bulls had dealt with. And so right around the time you're nearing the trade deadline, you're proving that Lonzo is healthy and reliable enough to play 25, even flirting with 30 minutes a night. The last game of the season he played, that OT victory over the Raptors, he played 34 and a half minutes. So if you are a team looking to add a quality veteran piece on a reasonable deal to a playoff-bound team, Lonzo was proving the biggest question to be a non-factor. Yes, I am healthy. Yes, I can play 20 minutes a night. That's probably, if you're a playoff-bound team already, all you're going to be asking from me as an in-season roster addition. Now, it's like, yes, okay, there is the team option element of this, and kudos for the Bulls for doing it that way. We know they love giving guys player options, but because it's a team option, it's essentially another year where he is a player on and expiring. And he's on an expiring deal that's half as expensive as the final year of his 4-year deal that he barely played on. So that could still be a piece that a player will give the Bulls draft capital for in a midseason trade. But you now have to deal again with the big question of, is Lonzo Ball healthy?
Yeah, and we should be clear that the injury that he sustained in the season had nothing to do with the knee that had been surgically repaired. It was the wrist. And at that point in the year, he was playing. He did hurt it earlier on in the year. He missed I believe 12 or 15 games in late October, early November, and then hurt it again and missed even more games to end the year. I heard that they weren't even really seriously thinking about bringing him back, just that he didn't feel quite right with the extension release on his jump shot, and that was kind of holding him back. But yeah, it's just more injury stuff for this guy. And look, if Lonzo's able to be healthy and he can contribute even at the same level that he was last year, like, he's a really productive player. I expect him to shoot better. Especially when the wrist situation gets sorted out. The on-off stuff always loves him. He's a great defender. He's a great ball mover. This is not like get Lonzo Ball off the team by any means necessary. I think this guy is really good. I think he can help a team that's trying to compete for a championship today. And he deserves, after everything that he's been through, an opportunity to play at the highest level. And I think the Bulls could get something for him on their timeline, who fits a little bit better. So I see why they would want to keep him. He's still only 27 years old. He's a great complementary player. I think he's probably the best defensive player on the team. And he can help some of these younger players get better with his passing IQ and shooting. But at the same point, like, I think the front office needs to be thinking about ways that they can improve their future outlook, not just their present outlook. And Lonzo, even though he's young, is very much this guy could really help us today. And I just don't think that should be the priority.
Yeah, and like, there is that element of what Lonzo could provide them. Not only, I agree, hands down their best defensive player, but the high IQ player that he is, making his young teammates better. When you're talking about a Bulls team who is hanging so much of their potential future growth as a competitive NBA team on their young guys who are already in-house getting better. And Lonzo perhaps being a veteran, not only leader, but just a guy whose style of play can make his teammates better, being an element to that. That's all well and good. It's just a matter of, as you said, if the reason to, hey, we'll re-sign Lonzo on a team-friendly deal, and it's even, going to be essentially a 1-and-1 still expiring, maybe that's a piece that, if he's still healthy, can net us an even bigger return into trade, maybe a first-round pick. And then to learn, if the reporting is correct, that after the fact, actually they had an offer that included a first-round pick on the table. They turned it down. That's when you just get to that really whole, like, ugh.
And I think ultimately it comes down to the fact that I just don't really feel like this front office values draft capital very much, especially draft capital that's not in the lottery. I don't know that they really prioritize like the 7th overall draft positioning versus the 12th, but I also don't think that they really value 18 compared to 12 because the odds of finding a star there are just so low. So maybe what ends up happening is you package him alongside Vooch for a player. Maybe it's Jonathan Kuminga. The Bulls want to make an offer sheet on a restricted free agent. The Warriors want to do a sign and trade. That's $30 million combined. Maybe they make a big play for a guy like Jonathan Kuminga or another restricted free agent or another sign and trade. They do have options here, and I think that's important to remember. And Kuminga fits perfectly with this ethos of young players with experience, guys who can help you win now, or at least remain competitive now, but still have room to grow. I don't really think he fits so much with the like run and gun, 3-point shooting, ball moving stuff. That's not really his game. But he's a young player with a lot of talent, and I think the Bulls need to be accumulating that however they can get it. So maybe that's the type of trade. Maybe it's not Kuminga specifically, but that's the kind of trade that they will look out for in lieu of a draft pick. But yeah, I just think they need to be looking for ways to improve their future outlook. And I think trading Lonzo or one of the other veterans or multiple is probably the best way to do that.
Well, as we move through the offseason, hopefully by the time we get to media day and training camp, there is a smiling Lonzo Ball telling us that he is healthy, the knee is fine, the wrist is fine, he's ready to go. And then we could talk about him being a quality piece to help this young team and also potentially being a piece that rebuilds some trade value for an in-season trade. That's going to do it for this mini pod. Be sure to check out all of our full-length pods, CHGO Bulls, throughout the entire offseason. We'll still do 5 shows a week for y'all. You can find it on that CHGO Sports YouTube channel or wherever you get your pods.